All praises belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Lord of all the worlds. We seek refuge in Allah from the evil of our souls and the evil of our bad deeds. And we ask Allah's countless peace and blessings to be upon His final and last messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Don't forget to frequently send salutations on the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam throughout your day today up until Maghrib, as this is something that is a sunnah act and recommended for us to do. Today I want to look at a short benefit of a story between the Imam of Tafsir, known as Ibn Jarir, and the Fanatics of Baghdad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Historically, people have always been treated unjustly and oppressed by their contemporaries along with their sightless followers. Allah has a method of testing His slaves with trials and suffering to strengthen their faith, to elevate their status in this world or in the next. The righteous scholars who carry Allah's word and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's sunnah and defend them will be afflicted in this life from the ill-mannered fools in their society or by global campaigns led by gangs. Among those in history badly affected by fools and fanatics was a great scholar named Muhammad ibn Jarir ibn Yazid ibn Kathir. Now when we say Ibn Kathir, we're not talking about the well-known scholar Ibn Kathir of Tafsir, but Ibn Jarir was a Mufassir as well, and it's known as Tafsir Ibn Jarir. He is mentioned more often as Abu Ja'far al-Tabari or Ibn Jarir. Ibn Jarir was an erudite of Quranic sciences and the Sunnah, something that is widely recognized in his book known as Tafsir al-Tabari. Khatib al-Baghdadi said Ibn Jarir was an Imam among the Imams of Islam. His speech and opinions are reference points. Abu Ja'far was so widely read, he collected knowledge and information that no one else did during his time. He had extensive knowledge about the Quran, the Sunnah, and its chains of narration, which placed him on rank able to be able to distinguish between the Sahih and the weak Ahadith, along with their abrogated reports. Also, Ibn Jarir was educated about the speech of the Sahaba and the Tabi'een. He was also a noted historian who authored a book titled Akhbar al-Umam wa Tariqahum. His most noted works are Tafsir and Tahdhib al-Athar, and both books are unique in their field. In fact, Imam al-Dhahabi said Ibn Jarir was a trustworthy, honest, and a hafiz. He was a leader in tafsir and an imam in fiqh with knowledge about the issues of ijma' and the differing opinions. Moreover, this imam was a historian with deep insight about the various Quranic recitations in Arabic language. Ahmed ibn Abi Tahir said, if a person traveled to China in search of Tafsir al-Tabari, that wouldn't be considered a stream. Ibn Jarir moved and remained in Baghdad in the latter part of his life. When he went there, he began to spread his books and assemble everything he learned during his journey and path of seeking knowledge. He remained firm with his views after having the opportunity to meet various scholars. These judgments of his became known as Madhab al-Jarir or Madhab al-Jarir, which was an independent school of jurisprudence in Baghdad. And this caused some disturbances amongst the people there. The countless fanatical followers of Imam Ahmad's madhab rebelled against Ibn Jarir and assailed him with foul names and brutal physical attacks. The main reason they behaved in this fashion towards this Imam were: 1. After Ibn Jarir researched and examined issues, he came to the conclusion that Imam Ahmad was a hafiz, scholar of hadith, but not a faqih. For that reason, when he wrote Ikhtilaf al-Fuqaha, the differences of the Fuqaha, and he passed over Imam Ahmad's opinions. He supported this decision since he presumed that Imam Ahlus Sunnah, Imam Ahmad, didn't write any books about fiqh, but he focused more of his attention on the hadith sciences. In view of that, Imam Ibn Jarir didn't mention any of Imam Ahmad's legal opinions with the fatwa of the scholars and the fuqaha in his book. So the Hanabila, the scholars of the Hanabila jurisprudence, they asked him, why didn't you cite our Imam in your book? Abu Ja'far replied, he wasn't a faqih, but only a muhaddith. They didn't appreciate that answer. And there were so many followers of the Hanabila jurisprudence in Baghdad at that time, so they turned against Ibn Jarir and said whatever they felt like about him without thought or concern of his status and knowledge. As time went on, the Hanabila of Baghdad raised such a storm against Imam al-Tabari, he couldn't even come out of his own house. And when he did, they would throw rocks at him. This rebellion against Imam al-Tabari escalated to the point that one day the police came to his house along with thousands of soldiers, and a regular crowd of people who were part of the chaos were already there. They instigated the officers present to go against Imam Ibn Jarir, so much so that Ibn al-Khuzaymah said the Hanabila have oppressed Ibn Jarir. Ibn Jarir wrote a book refuting the Hanabila, and their leading Imam at that time, who was Abu Bakr ibn Abi Dawud, who is the son of Imam Abu Dawud, who's a famous author of Sunan Abu Dawud. Imam al-Dhahabi said the Hanabila were a faction of followers loyal to Abu Bakr ibn Abi Dawud. Abu Bakr stirred up major turmoil against Ibn Jarir until he was unable to leave his house. I seek refuge in Allah from desires. Al-Hafiz ibn al-Athir said, the Hanabila prevent people from going to learn from Ibn Jarir. Ibn Kathir said, from their ignorance, they accused Ibn Jarir of being an atheist, and may Allah forbid that for this Imam. Abu Bakr Muhammad ibn Dawood al-Zahiri, a great scholar of Quran and Sunnah, accused at-Tabari of terrible things, such as being, this is particularly due to the fact that at-Tabari was one of his students in the beginning, but then later on had his own study circle. Both of these scholars used to write books back and forth refuting each other. Abu Bakr Muhammad al-Zahiri died 297 Hijrah, and that was the end of the first chapter of drama and fitna. Then Abu Bakr Abdullah ibn Sulaiman became the new ringleader for the hardships that Imam at-Tabari encountered. Abdullah ibn Abi Dawud and Ibn Jarir were considered contemporary amongst each other, and this part of dispute that led to this problem. Other reasons were Abu Bakr denied the hadith of Ghadir al-Qum, and Imam at-Tabari wrote a 2-volume book saying it was authentic. Also, Ibn Jarir wrote a book about the virtues of the Quran, and likewise Abu Bakr authored one. For these reasons mentioned, Imam at-Tabari was accused of being an apostate, a Rafida, a Shiite, and even Mu'tazila in some areas. Despite all of these accusations and hostility, Imam at-Tabari remained firm in his aqidah and legal opinions. Sometimes he would try to explain his position about their leaders to please them. However, they weren't trying to hear it. So his clarification was met with malicious attacks and fell on deaf ears. Imam Ibn Jarir wrote a book trying to bring reconciliation with the Hanabila by apologizing to them, not because he was weak, but to explain the reason he had that opinion. Nonetheless, the Hanabila remained adamant towards him, and this continued up until he died in his house. He was buried inside of his home out of fear from the Hanabila's physical attacks. After his death, people from around the world would pass by his home and offer salah at his graves. Reflections and minhaj lessons from this story. A poet once said, "They are more frightened than a fox. Amazing how tonight is identical to last night." Abu Fadl al-Maydan explained the meaning of this poem is some people resemble others in their evil and deceit, and last night is used to show how close they are. As Muslims trying to follow the Salaf, we need to pay attention to our history, as history has a way of repeating itself. What we call fitna, discord, and splitting is probably something we don't truly understand, since we haven't taken lessons from the times gone and recorded in history books, and Allah knows best. The Prophet ﷺ said, "The religion is advice, nasiha." We said, "To whom?" He said, "To Allah, His book, His messenger, and to the leaders of the Muslims and their common folk." This hadith plays an important role in maintaining the rights of Muslims and protecting them from harm. After reaching an elevated level of scholarship, Imam at-Tabari came to the conclusion, based on his scholarly judgments, that Imam Ahmad wasn't a faqih but only muhaddith, and this was an erroneous conclusion. Nevertheless, look at how it was treated for that era, and look how he was treated. Was he given evidence from the Hanabila scholars who claimed to be adherents to Imam Ahmad? Did that position warrant such hostility, since he didn't accept the place of Imam Ahmad's position in his books? He didn't place him in his books. Should he have been treated as so? This is what we witness today, and have been experienced for over the last decade, that when one scholar's ijtihad isn't accepted, a person is shunned, rejected, boycotted, in some cases mentally and physically harmed. Allah's help is sought. Imam Ahmad was a faqih, as stated by the numerous scholars during his era and after. He did write one book about salah, which is a fiqh topic. He didn't like his legal opinions of fiqh topics to be recorded as much as his hadith. The Fanatics of Baghdad asked Ibn Jarir, why didn't he include Imam Ahmed in his book? And he gave a fatwa based on his research, and they didn't like his answer. This is similar to what we find in 2000 to 2022. When a person says something that they don't like, they take a position, and this is automatically regarded against him, regardless of the man's academic level or authority in Islam, or even being from a common folk. He will be treated unpleasant and cold because they didn't give the desired answer. The next point, jealousy between peers is a common issue among scholars. Next point, scholars who were oppressed during their lifetime, then Allah allowed their work to spread after their death, and perhaps it is better for them as it helps them in Iman, teaches them to refrain from doing oppression, and helps safeguards them from being conceited. Our next point, sometimes people will just follow the crowd and oppress great peoples of knowledge. Next point, sometimes the knowledge of a scholar isn't truly circulated during his lifetime among the people. Next point, ignorant people oppress people of knowledge and prevent others from learning from them simply because they are unsatisfied with that scholar's stance of their leader. Next point, those people who were against Ibn Jarir prevented travelers to Baghdad from narrating and meeting him, and if a person went to meet him, he faced a difficult time getting there. Similarly today, people will prevent others from visiting scholars even if they come to their own city. Next point, Ibn Jarir faced turmoil and strife from two scholars both named Abu Bakr. The first was Abu Bakr ibn Abi Dawood al-Zahiri, and the second was Abu Bakr ibn Abi Dawood. May Allah have mercy on them all. Next point, you notice with ringleaders of fitna that they are overzealous and sometimes just plain outright evil. Next point, Imam Ibn al-Jawzi said, there are no gangs in Islam like this despicable gang, meaning the Hanabila who oppressed Ibn Jarir. Translated and compiled by Abu Ali Abdullah bin Dwight Battle in the blessed city of Doha several years ago. Wa subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.